Hey everybody, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Jon Eddy, and I'm really excited about today's episode because Jon's story is super inspiring, and I'm going to let him share that. But Jon, if I could just ask you if you wouldn't mind sort of just sharing a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move on to your story, if that's cool.
Yeah. Jon Eddy's my name. I'm a 51-year-old former plumber, sort of. I'm still a plumber, but I don't really have my heart in it too much anymore. Live in Busselton in the southwest of Australia, and that's I like walking and fighting things.
And so when I met you, it was via some friends of mine via the men's walk, and that's when I first heard you speak. And so at a resilience, I think it was Arm for Life Resilience, where you shared your story. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that and sort of how you got to where, what you're doing now.
I started with the man walk because the guy who set that up in Busselton, David Barton, was the first person to give me my voice, really, and let me share my story.
Yes.
And he's been a fantastic support. And honestly, without him, I doubt I would have got the traction I've got. And through that event, I met Mark Lane. And when I spoke about my story the first time, he came forward and told me about his struggles in front of everyone else. And at that point, I realised the power of my, I don't say lived experience anymore, I say living experience, because I'm still here.
Yes.
And, I realised there was absolute power in it. And I've really, since that point, I probably about 2 years ago, I'm not sure of the exact date, I've been working hard in an amazing direction, I guess. It's when I look back at it, it's hard to fathom what I've done. It doesn't seem like much sometimes, but I think it really is. My story, I'll sort of flitter around a little bit with it, because really stage 2 of my life started about 2.5 years ago when I lost my 20-year-old son to suicide. This isn't my first experience with suicide in my family. I've got a long history with it. My first experience with it was probably about 12 or 13, and I managed to stop my mother from taking her life. She was very unwell for many years, and by stopping her, I think I just was present. I walked in on an attempt, and I managed to do that a few times. And when I was 15, I didn't manage to do that, and she took her life. In those days, this was 1985, the support I got, I was taken out of school for a couple of weeks, then put back in school, and I sort of felt like I had leprosy after that. It wasn't really pleasant. Set me on a pretty bad road, to be honest, and I left school at 15. First job I got was plumbing, hence I'm a plumber. I tried to be an electrician, but I'm colourblind, but plumbing's a heaps better trade anyway. So I pretty young to leave home, and I discovered the miracle drug alcohol for pain relief, and started drinking tequila, no less. So I got stuck into this good stuff, and drugs, alcohol, and anger was my method of dealing with what I was going through, and I certainly didn't understand what I was dealing with. Continued on, and I got into a world of trouble with the police. I was threatened with jail from a judge, and the only reason he didn't put me in jail was because he wasn't allowed to. I was going, just drink driving offences mainly, but I got into some very serious trouble. I tried to join the army. I thought that might straighten me out. One of my great mentors in my life was my grandfather, and he's a World War II veteran, and I loved him and respected him, and he taught me a lot about how to deal with humans and work ethics and whatnot. So I thought, I'll join the army, it'll straighten me out. They looked at my record and my psych test, and apparently I had a problem with authority, and they told me if I don't get arrested to come back in 6 months, but I got arrested the next night, so that was the end of that. So that was my army career, but everyone, I think, in that intake ended up over at the first Gulf War anyway, so it's probably worked out for the better for me, to be honest. I went from there, took off up north. I went, bought a one-way ticket with some friends through via Thailand and Greece. And a lot of friends told me I'd be back in 3 months. I think it was about 2.5 years. I came back with a Finnish bride. I got married in Finland. But before I met her, I ended up in Israel with no money, and it didn't seem like it at the time, but in hindsight, I was more or less homeless, I guess. I had a job, but I was living on the beach in a tent. I had an empty backpack and I had the clothes I was wearing and about $5 to my name. And just before I met my wife, I drank a bottle of vodka, which is about $1 over there, and managed to punch an Israeli policeman in the head, which was not my smartest move in life, and spent a bit of time in jail. And I was actually getting deported. But I sort of wriggled out of that and met my future wife, and she tried to straighten me out, but I was, obviously, you can tell from my story, I was pretty messed up, and I was fighting the whole world when really I was fighting myself, and I didn't realise that. I understand it now. But so we went to Finland, got married. Long story, you know, obviously over a few years. That not long after we got married, things weren't going really good with me, and she's probably wondering what the hell she was doing with me, and I tried to take my life. I've crashed cars and practiced extreme self-destructive behaviour before, but this is the first time I just saw a chance, and I hadn't thought about it before, but I just absolutely at that point was adamant that was it. I'm done. And it's only through physical intervention from a couple of guys that I'm here. So at that point, I was going. I've been in this position before, after that happened, but that, you know, I guess we'll get to that. No one knew about that. I was removed, locked up, and then a few hours later I was released, and I was in a foreign country. They didn't say anything to my wife. I never told anyone, and I never told anyone in the whole world that until my son took his life. And I actually got that tattoo. I don't know if you can see it there.
Ah, yes.
Yep, to represent that. So it's a heartbeat with a semicolon.
Yeah.
And that represents what I went through at that point. So fast forward, we're back to Australia, met my grandfather, he met my wife. He took his life the same way as my mother, not long after that. And I'm still processing what I'm going through, and I can't believe I've lost my son.
Yeah.
And I feel if I had shared my story earlier, he would perhaps be here, but that's pretty a common thought for parents in my situation. You know, we all say that we shouldn't feel guilty about it, but that guilt I will take with me to my grave, because he was my son, I was his father, and I had one job to do and I failed. That's how I feel.
Yes.
Then before my son died, my marriage really went pear-shaped. I'm pretty fanatical about everything I get stuck into, and one of them was setting up my plumbing business. So drinking heavily, working 14 hours a day, 7 days a week on a government contract for 4 years straight without a break. And I took my wife and young family up to the wheat belt and left them isolated while I was working non-stop, and you know, thinking I was doing the right thing, paying off the house. In hindsight, you know, money's shit. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So we were going through a real rough patch, and she took off to Finland for a break, which she used to do, and took the kids, and I was sitting alone with a bottle of bourbon and the method in one hand and a drink in the other, and everything laid out, ready to go again, thinking I can't do this anymore. And I kept seeing my children at my funeral, and that's what stopped me, and that's what prompted me to go and get help.
Yeah.
I went to a psychologist with the mental health plan. I went to my GP and, you know, got the plan, and I went to the psychologist with my 10 free visits. And after 2 visits, he told me I probably don't have to be here, because quite simply, my mother's death wasn't my fault. And I really wish someone had told me that when I was 15, and my life would be very, very different. Sorry, I'm tearing up a bit here.
That's okay. I totally feel you.
And, you know, and here we are now. My boys, I've got one son, Tommy, who's at university, but I've lost my beautiful 20-year-old Alex. We didn't have any warning. He was weeks away from finishing his apprenticeship as a chef. He'd just moved out with some mates, and it wasn't going so well, and he was a week away from moving home. So that's how close we missed him by. And, you know, one day his work rang up and said he hasn't come to work, and he'd never done that in the 3-year apprenticeship. And things went to shit from there, I tell you. So day 2, you know, I was there when we found him. There was a massive search, which I'm still processing. After I identified him the next day, I drank a bottle of bourbon and 2 bottles of wine in the sitting. And I was literally deciding whether I live or die, because I don't know if I can do this shit anymore, to be honest. I woke up in the morning and my wife told me she had to walk me outside to go to the toilet for me, which, you know, quite proud of that moment, obviously. And I was pretty sick. And I decided at that point to never, ever run from suicide again. I just won't run. I'll fight it to any means I can bring to my hands. I've got a lot in my hands at the moment. I actually stopped. I have a drink every now and again now, but I stopped for near on 9 months. And that's the first time since I was 15 that I've ever gone without alcohol.
Wow.
And I think if I didn't stop, I probably would have died.
Yeah.
So yeah, now, you know, of course, after something so traumatic, a lot of the experts tell you not to act. It's too early. You can't do this. You can't do that. I did quite a powerful local TV, newspaper interview about it 2 weeks after he died. And I've gone as loud and as public as I can, sharing my story in the hope to get people to reach out for help. And especially guys, young men, when I made my first attempt, and my son, men are impulsive and we react. If I had sought out help prior to that attempt, if I had recognised I was heading down a bad road, I could have perhaps got help, and you know, earlier intervention would have made all the difference. But guys being guys, we don't necessarily recognise we're heading down that road. We want to be big, strong, tough providers, and we pay the price. That's why we're making up about 75% of the suicides at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, go for it. Continue.
Yeah. What am I up to now? I've got so many hats. I've tried to do it in a timeline. So the first opportunity I got to act was with a suicide postvention support group called Shining Hope, based out of Bunbury. Not long after joining them, they invited me to sit on the committee. So I try and help with those guys as much as I can. I haven't got a lot of time at the moment, but they're fantastic, and they really, really helped me in the early days with peer meetings, just by sitting around in a room with other people talking about what you're going through. So, you know, not clinical, just talking to other people about your experiences, people that have gone through it, people who are a bit further down.
And how, you know, because this is so devastating, right? You know, especially when you've got all the feelings of, you know, would have, could have, you know, should have, all these things that are going on for you, right? And so was it, you know, what was it like being able to have those conversations with others so that you felt like you weren't on your own going through this?
I don't know. Look, I'm a little bit different because I went there with the full knowledge that I wanted to fight.
Yes. Yeah.
I was hoping, I think the first time I walked in there, I was hoping to connect with people who were fighting. But then something very different happened. And like I said, a bit later on in the process, I shared my story with Mark, our friend, and, you know, it helped him. And I realized that, you know, the power of other people listening to you who are perhaps a couple of years further ahead in this, I hate the word and I hate the phrase journey. And if you say healing journey, I'll have to hang up. So I can't stand that. So, but I guess in a way that's what it is. You know, we're on this path. So when you share that with someone else and they open up about their own experience and you can see that they've survived, it's very powerful.
Yeah, well, that's how I first heard about you, was through Lady, Mark Lane, and he just told me about this amazing guy, you know, and was telling me, and I was like, wow, I need to meet him. And so, you know, it probably would have been maybe I don't know, a good 18 months, maybe 2 years, maybe 18 years since Lainey first told me about you. And and I was so blown away by your story. And I remember thinking to myself one day, because I was going through, you know, recovering from brain trauma, and I thought, when my podcast shows up and running, I really wanted to, and I could see the incredible work that you were doing, right? And I was thinking, I want to have him on and have a conversation about this. So beautiful also to be able to talk about it from like the parents' point of view as well, because you don't often hear those stories. And not only that, and the combination of also how guys can be quite impulsive, but also very violent, right? As well, when it comes to suicide.
The girls do it differently. They obviously they do take their lives, unfortunately, but girls seem to have a few more attempts at it, whereas guys generally have one attempt and they're very serious about it and they don't muck around and they're often successful. Yeah, it's just a different mindset. And every suicide is as individual as we are. I've learned how complex the whole thing is. In fact, I was invited to the Mental Health Minister's office with a meeting a little while ago, and one of the first things I said to him was I should have chosen astrophysics because it's so much simpler than suicide prevention. It's just so complex.
Yeah.
The more I learn about it, the more obviously I understand, but also what I understand is my own experience. It's not right to attempt to understand anyone else's experience because that's their experience. They understand it. We can help them. We all have a little sliver of the answer. And when we all combine as a community, I think we can defeat it. But everyone needs to play their part in it.
Oh, I agree so much. I mean, I've been suicidal myself. I know I didn't attempt to take my life, but I danced with it and was in a really dark place. And I planned it. I'd planned it, but didn't go ahead with it. And I was sort of fought it so hard, but just wanted the pain to end at the same time, and it was I remember it being it was nearly like, it's like an out of body experience and you just lose who you are completely. And that's what my experience, like, can be different for other people. And I remember I was probably spent a few months in bed, just falling to pieces, crying. And I remember people just not understanding how I felt, just saying, get your shit together. You're one of the strongest people we know. You'll be fine, but yeah, people just didn't get it. And I would say, I'd reach out for help and say, hey, look, can I, I'd be thinking today's going to be the day, and then I'd think, oh shit, I've got to get out of the house. I've got to, because I was afraid of what I would do. And I'd say, hey, can I come around for a coffee to someone's place who had said, come around for a coffee anytime? And they'd say, oh, we're too busy. You'll be right. And so then I'd be stuck in the house going, I don't know, I'd be pacing the floor, you know what I mean? Or in the bed crying and just wishing it would all go away and wishing that there was just a pill I could take that would just end it. The pain would be over, And so I've spoken to other people who have been through like, similar stories, but every single person's journey is different, right? And when you're going through that as well, I know for myself, when people were it doesn't matter how many people say they love and adore you, you don't feel that in here within yourself, right? And because you don't feel that, it's like you're so disconnected. And so when you don't feel loved and you feel really disconnected and you're in this deep anguish and pain, it's very and it's like you become like someone else. So it's very difficult to climb out of that when you're so far down that rabbit hole, right?
Yep. It's, when I tried overseas, like I said, I'd just been married, and I remember thinking, what right do I possibly have to have any sort of happiness?
Yes, yeah.
Thinking, what right have I got for that? It's it's very, very complex, and it's a human condition. We're human beings, and 80% of us at some point in our life will have these thoughts.
Yes.
So it's more normal than abnormal, but obviously we need to stop people acting on them, and that's when it becomes the issue. And recognizing that we're in crisis or heading that way, it's so important that early intervention. It's the word of the year, I think, or my word of the year anyway. We've got to try and catch these people early, and that includes getting to school kids and educating them about this. And gender specific. The guys are different to girls. It's just a biological fact. So, and the way they deal with it is. So that opens up questions about the transgender community and everything. And what an amazing story they have and a battle they have. And so, they just get tortured about what they are or who they want to be through no choice of their own. And I know a few of them now, and they're just the most amazing people. The battle they go through, it's like similar to what I've gone through, but I'm just on a whole different level, I think. So, and I just hate suicide in any form, to be honest. It's another tattoo I've got. Can you see that one?
Yes. Oh, yes. I like that one.
That's what I think. And when I got that, though, I wanted to get it exposed on my arm, and I was going in very public, and they advised me to put it away somewhere a bit private. All right. Yeah, good advice.
And I think too, there is so much shame and stigma around it when people are suffering and in that dark place, and they're feeling like they should be able to just pull themselves out of it. And especially if you're not aware, when I experienced brain trauma, I was very, very cautious of my mental health because of what I'd been through years beforehand, right? I knew, and I actually could feel myself, I feel my mental health starting to suffer. And I was lucky because I had been through that experience. I know what to look out for, right? So I was able to sort myself out fairly quickly. But, if you haven't been through it and you just don't understand what you're feeling, this is why awareness is so important, right? Because it can happen so quickly. You don't really know, you can just be feeling really, really crappy about yourself, and it can only just take a few things just to push you over the edge, and then all of a sudden you're spiraling downwards really fast and thinking, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah, and a big part of what I'm doing is raising awareness. That's one of the big things I really, really wanted to do, and that's leads us on, I guess, to the next step, which was blue trees. So I just love a blue tree, and Kendall White actually asked me to be a blue tree community ambassador down here. I think more to shut me up more than anything. But again, with David and Mark Lane, we did the Strong Roots blue tree down here in Busselton. We managed to raise $11,000 towards whatever, like I said earlier, money doesn't mean much to me anymore. It's a tool to get what we need done.
Yes.
So I remember approaching the city about it, and they said if we keep it under 4 meters, we don't need a building permit. So we moved a 3.5 ton stump illegally off the highway by crane instead. So it was, just got to be doing it. Got to get it done. So I've been privileged to be a part of quite a few blue trees now, and I love them. I haven't done one for a while. I need to go and do one. And again, we just recently had a festival down here called Raising the Vibe, which was, I guess, my concept. And the reason that came about was I wanted to get into schools to talk to kids about my experience, but they won't let plumbers in to talk about suicide for some reason. So I thought, all right, beautiful. Let's put some music on, and use that as the bait to get him in and try and get him some information. So we had Lifeline and Headspace involved, and we had a heap of people through. It was a great day. So we'll do that annually. That was. I love sort of being told no.
Me too. I totally get that.
It's too important to take no. And I really believe we need to change the way we're dealing with people in crisis or heading towards crisis. We need to put the humanity back in being humans.
Yeah.
I'm a peer care companion for a group called Roses in the Ocean, and that's so I take warm phone lines. It's not like a Lifeline crisis call. It's like a level down. So people can ring up and leave a message, and we'll call them back. And, just they'll link us up with someone who's got a similar living experience as what they're going through. And we'll just talk to them. We're not clinical. We've just got a similar living experience and talk on the same level, and it works. I've done quite a few of those calls. It's fantastic.
Oh, so, that is fantastic.
I should give it a spruik, the number.
Yes.
It's so 1-800-777-337. So if anyone's having dramas and wants to talk to someone about what they're going through, it's not just bereavement. It can be if they've experienced an attempt, thinking about it, or caring for someone who's suicidal, all of those. Anything to do with suicide, we'll match them up with someone and talk to them. So it's a great initiative.
That's so awesome, because I know even for myself and for people that have been close to me that have, been considering suicide and in that really dark place, for myself, I was going to have to wait 8 weeks for help.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that's a long time, you know, that's, you know, when that's why it's so important to like to have options like you have, that you're providing, right, and involved with, because then there's someone to talk to, because all it takes is that little bit of hope, right?
Yep.
That little bit of hope and that conversation to sort of just ease the pain and give someone some peace in that moment. Because when you're in that space, you feel like the loneliest person on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And it's so nice to feel like someone cares about you and has your back.
And we've got to help people ride that storm.
Yes.
You know, you've got to ride that storm for however long it takes. And you know, one thing I've from as soon as I lost my son, I was preaching to reach out for help. And there is a problem with reaching out for help at the minute. People have got to do it. Don't get me wrong. It's important, and there is help there. But everyone is busy, and it's hard to get into some places. So you know, it's people have to be persistent with it. Ride that storm, and we're working. I'm personally working on things to try and help. You know, think outside the square a little bit, and things like the warm phone line. You know, they'll never replace Lifeline. Lifeline's vital. Same as the emergency department is vital, a vital tool in the cog. But I'm working on something else with Roses, and it's called a pop-up safe haven in Busselton. And I managed to secure Busselton as one of 5 sites, pilot sites Australia-wide, and this is the only one going in WA at the moment. We're at the moment taking expressions of interest and from people who have either been consumers or cared for someone. We want to know what they think about it and what we can do to improve how their situation is when they're in that critical moment. And then we'll have peers such as myself with minimal training, but people who care and understand, and have them in a safe, warm place, quiet, no fluoros, no emergency department. I want it to work closely with the services so that, you know, if we need their support, we can admit people, but admit them in a warm way at the back door. And so they're ready for them, instead of pumping them in through the front door and they've got to sit with a screaming child. Yeah. These people go there for help, and then often they want to leave because they don't want to sit there like that.
Yeah.
We, again, like I said, we need to put the humanity back into it. So I'm so excited for this thing. And I think the tide is turning, I'd like to think, and the way we're dealing with it. And people are very interested, obviously, in what I'm doing with this. It's a lot of people are starting to watch, and we'll see how it goes. I feel like I'm up against it a little bit to get it going. But you know, it's nothing good is easy, I suppose. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but I can't wait to get it going. So,
well, I think too, because you know, people, because there is this stigma, you know, around it, and there's this kind of shame around it, people are actually quite scared to, like, if someone says to them, you know, like, I'm really struggling, I'm in this really dark place, they're going like, well, what's a dark place, or, you know, or what is it? And then they're going, oh, well, you should just go and speak to someone. You know, they're kind of like, that's a bit too hard for me. And so I think that it's really cool to be raising awareness, just so that people can be a little bit more compassionate and kinder to people, and have their back, and understand that they don't actually have to solve that person's problem, right? They don't have to, like, fix them. They can just be there for them, and you know, be able to create maybe a group of friends around them who can just have their back in their own special way, you know, while they're going through this process, so that they can get help. And even just to, like, speak with them on a regular basis, to check in on them, or go over, pop in there, give them something to eat, you know, or whatever, make sure that they're okay if they've got to wait for a few weeks to see someone, you know, just to make sure that there's, I mean, otherwise, if someone's left to their own devices and they're in a really dark place, it's a risk, right?
Yep, it is a risk, yeah. And I also think, you know, all these services that are out there are brilliant. I'm never knocking them. I think we're all a cog in the machine that we need to help people. We just need more options.
Yeah.
And we can deal with these people in a more compassionate way. They don't necessarily need medication all the time, and you know, they don't necessarily need to be shipped off up to Perth, away from their families. And you know, you can talk people down. You know, people they just want this compassionate ear and people to understand and, and validate their story and say, oh yeah, right. I'm not going to sit here and judge you because you've done that or you've been like this, and it comes back to like what we were just talking about is, if you sat there and told me, oh, look, Jon, everything you've been through, everything's going to be okay. I wouldn't like you as a person almost, because it's just bullshit. Yeah. Everything's not going to be okay. Yeah. I'm dealing with something that's just absolutely impossible. And suicide bereavement is very, very different to other sorts of bereavement. Yeah. And losing a child to suicide is on a different level again. It's a type of pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. And it's a pain that's with you forever, 24/7. I remember for 2 years, just over 2 years, looking in a mirror and thinking, who am I? I just don't understand anything. The whole world has shifted. Things like before he died, I had a really good plumbing business and plugging away with my super, thinking, right, I can't wait to go traveling in Asia when I finish my, retire. Everything's peachy now. I just don't care. I've more or less shut down the business. I work for another company and they're brilliant people and really look after me. And I do that to eat. I have no interest in it anymore. I try to remember I'm working on someone's dream home and keep that in the front of my mind. But all I want to do is fight suicide as hard as I can. So it's another thing I've just started is I'm going to be a facilitator for a group called Outside the Locker Room. They go into sporting clubs and schools and talk to young people about mental health and drug and alcohol problems and things like that. So I'm really, really excited to start doing that. So nervous, very, very nervous about it, but I can't wait. It's always been my goal to speak to children or young people, youth. I think youth really need to find some help, especially that age group. There's quite a lot of good support and it's changing as well in schools. But when they leave school, and, often they leave school and that coincides with the time they leave home and, they're finding their way and they're hitting the booze and probably smoking a bit of weed and doing all the stuff like everyone goes through and splitting up with their boyfriends or girlfriends and working out their sexuality. And it's all happening at the one time. It must be so overwhelming. I did it when I was 15, but I guess at any age, it's just an overwhelming time. And I think there's a lot of gaps there for help for these people. And, women or young girls are forced to put sexualized photos with filters up all the time. And, God only knows what actually goes on that we don't see. Yeah. And, they're just kids still. It's just bullshit. And I spoke to Libby Metham, our local member of parliament down here. She's also the shadow mental health minister, about it one time. We both agree. We wish we could put that genie back in the bottle, just throw that crap away, but it's here, unfortunately. So I think we need to think of ways of harnessing it to get to them, because they're going to use it. So we might as well find ways to harness it. Someone actually sent me an app the other day to have a look at, and it's quite a good idea. It's just a phone app that links up all the mental health services and anything like you're going through your appointment. Say if you're on medication, it can help with that, can help with your sleep pattern, all sorts of stuff just linked up in one app. And I think, well, that's a great idea. It's a format that they'll understand and, probably use. Yeah. Unfortunately, but that's where we're at.
Yeah. And I think too, like, whether it's for boys or girls, understanding your self-worth and believing in yourself, being able to help kids to grow their resilience more and have those tools so that then they can be strong within themselves, right, and aren't influenced as much by other people. And it's really easy for peer pressure, right, to send you downhill when you're not feeling so good about yourself, and the vulnerable often get stomped on even more, right? And the thing is that often you'll see that's when you see like kids retaliate, right? They'll get trodden down on so much and then they will just explode and do something really terrible. You see that happen a lot as well. So, kids are really going through a rough time, hey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. And I just, I just wish they'd understand it's normal to have a shit day. Yeah. And, unfortunately, like you said, it sometimes multiplies and you might have a bad day and then your girlfriend might dump you and then you might lose your job or your license or all of the above. You know, it happens, and this is life, and you can bounce back from it, and you can bounce back bigger and better. You know, and this is one thing I'm learning about myself is I don't want to just survive this. I want to flourish. I want to, you know, I enjoy life, and there's certain things that I really, really love, and I want to keep doing that. And you know, I love getting out in the forest and bushwalking and hiking stupid distances is something I really, really love to do. You know, life is good. It's hard. And it's up and down, and it's just normal to have these ebbs and flows and stuff. It's not always peachy. And like you're saying, and you know, we're getting this filtered crap on social media saying everything's peachy. We don't have pimples or cellulite, and you know, we've got all this money and everything's flash. It's not like that. You know, it's crap. So it's not how life really is.
Well, and not only that, usually the people that are doing a lot of that stuff have got a lot of their own shit going on behind the scenes anyway, you know, but
the vultures circle the weak, don't they? You know, they, you know, and the bullies are sometimes the hardest hit. You know, they're the ones that are, you know, who knows what's going on at home.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
You know, that's we have to practice kindness. You know, you don't know what secret war someone's fighting. You just don't know. And people are pretty well, everyone's fighting something on some level.
Yes.
And, you know, you don't have to be everybody's best friend, but you don't have to stomp on people. You know, someone could have helped my son on the day he died, and instead he, you know, shat on him.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't for a minute say he caused his death, but he could have intervened if he had known, you know.
Yeah.
Or perhaps practice kindness, things could have been so much different.
Yeah.
I've definitely not saying I wasn't guilty of that before his death. Obviously, I'm a very, very different person. I used to be very hard-nosed and judgmental and wouldn't necessarily talk to anyone, and I wouldn't necessarily donate my time to anything. I would donate money, you know, we'd give a lot of money to Red Cross through the business and all sorts of entities, but I wouldn't donate my time. Now, money's just irrelevant unless I've got, you know, I've got enough to eat, and you know, I need money to put on these events and things that I'm a part of. And you know, it's hard. The worst part about doing anything is actually going out there chasing up money. I hate it, but it's a part you got to do. So
yeah, that's the thing. But the thing is that there's so many, but there are people that are out there with money who don't, you know, who do have a lot of compassion for it, but maybe don't have the time themselves, right? That would love to give you that money, you know, because they do want to see a difference being made. So that's a good thing.
The Busselton, or the community in the southwest, but Busselton, my home, has been the most generous, amazing place. After we lost my son, I was pretty sure I'd leave. I didn't think I could stay here because obviously every corner I turn, I see him and he's everywhere. And now I could never leave. In my darkest, blackest time, I've met the most incredible people that have rallied around me, supported me, you know, giving me my voice and allowed me to do what I'm doing. And I feel like I want to repay that 100-fold. And, you know, if we can just save one life, if everything I'm doing saves one life, it's worth it. Yes. And Roses in the Ocean, who I'm a part of now, and I'm proud to be helping them, and they help me, is they say that one life at a time. Yeah. You know, we can't save everyone, but one starfish back into the water off the beach, as the saying goes.
I like
and
that.
It's true, because if you look at the bigger picture, it's incredibly overwhelming at the moment. Yeah, I've discovered it in a big way, and I just so badly want no one to ever be me. That's, you know, I just don't want anyone to ever have to go through what I'm going through. And I know with what I'm doing, I know many, many parents in the same situation. You know, it's just heartbreaking, every single one of them. I light candles on their birthdays and anniversaries if I know them, and it's rarely, I light one for my boy at the same time, and it's very rare we don't have two candles burning in my house.
Yes. In
the evening. It's just, it's an absolute preventable tragedy. We're not going to prevent it all, you know. I wish we could, but these kids are just the terrible part of it. It's just so gut-wrenching. Yeah. And all of our lives have just changed forever. And the one thing I realised, you know, again, there's so many experts in this field, but you don't have to be an expert. It doesn't discriminate. You know, you can come from any background. There's certain cohorts that are overrepresented. but it doesn't discriminate. It can absolutely affect anyone from good homes, bad homes, black, white, green, gay, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. When you're dead, it certainly doesn't matter. So and as I said earlier, it is a community problem, and every single person in the community has a role to play in it, whether it's the parts of, to keep yourself alive, or it's to keep your mate alive, or your family member alive, or a complete stranger. We all have a role to play in it. We can go out. The ways to do it is you can go out and do the Safe Talk training, which is just half a day of suicide first aid training. Very basic, but it'll keep someone alive, and then funnel them to someone who's done a little bit more training. And, and that's the storm. You can get them to ride their storm.
Yeah.
And it works. I've seen it work.
That is awesome. And it's, and the more awareness is created, the more it reduces the stigma around it, where people feel actually more open and more comfortable and not as afraid to actually say, look, I'm struggling at the moment. I need someone to talk to, because how many stories do you hear it all the time of like people just going, we didn't see it coming. We just didn't know, There's always signs, they say. We didn't see signs from my son, but he wasn't living at home at that point, so we would have missed them. In hindsight, he was a moody bugger, and at the end, and which is not uncommon for me, I'm moody all the time too. So I feel sorry for my wife having to live with me. It's her birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday. I love your wife. I met her at that Art for Life event. She's lovely. Yeah,
she is. Yeah, she doesn't. Hopefully she's not here because she doesn't know we're taking her out to dinner tonight, and our boy Tommy's coming from Perth, so awesome. She doesn't know he's coming down. So she's not home from work yet. So and it's there's so much I want to do, and I feel like a sponge, and I'm learning so much. And I was really close to signing up to university, and I wanted to go and study youth work or something like that, just mainly to be taken seriously. But I don't need to now, to be honest. I feel like I've been taken seriously, and I've been called all sorts of things, like bizarrely a community leader, which is just surreal to me.
That's how I think of you. You're a powerhouse, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it. It's strange. And the one I really like is mental health crusader or mental health activist. I like the mental health activist. I sort of picture myself a little cape. Because it's so much needs to be done. And like I said earlier, again, I only have this little slither of my story, but by sharing it, it seems to empower people to open up and say, okay, I can get through this. You can, we can do it together.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to be trained as a Safe Talk trainer in February, which I'm really, really excited about, because that opens up me to go with my story and then offer that training to people after I've shared my story a little bit. Then that'll let me into hopefully TAFEs and get to that, that group of kids, that younger people. So I want to be able to reach them. And again, with the outside the locker room, I want to, share that and get these younger guys, especially, to open up, and women. We're all in it together. So there's a lot. There's going to be an exciting year next year for me, I think. I can't wait.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah. And what else am I doing? You want to hear about what else I'm doing?
Yeah, tell them. I want to know all of it.
All right. I was awarded a bursary to attend a international suicide prevention summit earlier in the year.
Oh, Jon, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it went virtual because of COVID, because it was an international conference. But that's all right. I mean, purely being awarded, it was quite incredible. And then a part of that, I was invited to address it with my thoughts on the event. So I did that, and it was in two stages. One part was an Australian part with the Lived Experience Summit, and then it rolled into an international summit. So I got invited to share my thoughts on what I got out of it, my reflections. And after that, I've got I got some job offers, which is interesting. So, and also just a lot more support. There's a group called Standby Support After Suicide. They're big all over Australia, but they're not quite in the southwest yet, but they're moving in. Just purely to help people bereaved. They're really, really good. They're operating up in the Kimberley and doing amazing work up there. As you can imagine, they've got a serious issue up there.
Yeah.
So they invited me to sit on their lived experience advisory board, which is a national thing. So that's quite, I'm blown away by that. I haven't done a meeting yet. So I'm a Lifeline community ambassador, which is nothing compared to what our mate Laney does, because he's a crisis caller, and I know a couple of my friends are crisis callers, and you know they do amazing work. They're on the front line, so they're the true stars in my view. And I'd love to do that, but I honestly just don't have the time, and I think my time is better spent rallying the troops, so to speak. But I also sit on the Lifeline Western Australian Lived Experience Advisory Board, which again was an incredible honour, and I was moved to tears when they rang me and told me I got that. And that's a paid role, which is, you know, it's not a lot of money, but it's the most significant paycheck I've ever got. It's up on my wall. So, and you know, it's not a lot of money compared to running a plumbing business, but it's the most valuable piece of pay I've ever received in my life. And just, you know, it's just to be asked to offer what your thoughts are on something by an entity such as Lifeline is such a privilege. Lived experience or living experience, I love that term. Like I said earlier, I'm still alive, so I'm living.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have so much to offer with the way things should be set up and run, because we've gone through it. You know, I don't have all the answers to how things should be run, but again, if we all come together, we become an extremely powerful and extremely loud voice. And I sent a letter to the Minister and the Mental Health Commission saying, I don't really want to just stir shit up. I'm not here to stir shit up. I want to find the gaps, and I want to provide viable solutions to what the problem is for my community down here. And things like this pop-up safe haven is a step in that process. There's a need for it. People are contacting me whenever I get my ugly mug in the local paper. People contacted me saying, you know, we want help, but there's not necessarily anywhere to go, and maybe they don't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I want to provide a solution. I want to provide an alternative to that. If they come to us and they do need to go to hospital, we'll help them get there. And then also after they come to us, we'll keep in touch, hopefully, and provide solutions to what they're going through. You know, we've got all these problems. It's homelessness, drug and alcohol abuse, you know, intergenerational drug and alcohol abuse, and racism, and you know, there's all these problems, all connected. Yeah. It's all connecting to the crisis, and I want to have an open door policy. And you know, in a perfect world for the future of something like that, I see it take the pop-up out of it and call it a safe haven, so it's a permanent building. Hopefully 3 or 4 days a week, move into 5 days a week, and then have a bus attached to it that we can relocate to crisis points. And you know, when it's not used for a safe haven crisis, you know, like after a bushfire or a fatality or something like that, we could use it for education and deliver free safe talk and assist training. And that's my long-term goal at the moment. And you know what it needs? A little bit of money. Yeah. All it needs. It's only, and money's crap now anyway. It's all just cyberspace numbers. It's floating around, doesn't even mean anything.
It is. It's funny you say. I totally get what you mean. After you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life, it changes your outlook on money a lot.
Yeah. My outlook on everything has changed. You know, what's really important to you and us is right in front of us. Yeah. And it might be something that you don't necessarily have to strive to get. It might be right in front of you, and it's very easy just to keep looking past that day after day. Yeah. And you know, I'd like to think my boy knew I loved him and he loved me, and I probably should have said it more often than I did. I think I said it a lot, but you know, it's what's vital and important to you is right there. It's right close to us. Yes. Go and find your loved ones and kiss them and hug them and tell them you love them. Yes. Because it might not be a suicidal, it could be something we don't know what's around the corner.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And that's what's important. All the rest of it's just crap. Yeah. It can be taken away at any time and you've still got each other. That's what's important.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Oh, I'm so grateful that you came on today. I really enjoyed this conversation big time. And is there anything else that you would like to share? Because there's like I'm talking to you and I'm thinking, oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that, because I follow your Facebook feed a fair bit.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, like and anything else that you'd like to share, but also is there like any parents that are sort of going through what you're going through, what would you like to say to them?
Any parents who are in my situation, I would say reach out to other parents such as us.
Yeah.
There's a Facebook group in Western Australia called Parents of Angels. It's a closed private group, and they are just fantastic. We meet every now and again and catch up with these fantastic lunches. You wouldn't think something could be beautiful with a room full of bereaved parents, but it really is, you know. And only, like I said earlier, the grief that we go through is very, very different and a lot more intense than you could possibly imagine. And I so hope no one ever has to be in that position, but it helps a lot to be with other people. And Parents of Angels was started by a really good friend of mine now, Ray, and she also lost her boy. And they just the loveliest people, all of them in there are. And we just support each other and catch up. There's a national one I'm a part of as well called Parents Living with Suicide. And likewise, you know, it's just a fantastic entity. I wouldn't recommend doing what I'm doing. It's not the easiest way to deal with things. And, you know, I got told that a lot. And, you know, I get told I'm re-traumatizing and whatever, but this is how I survive. So it's what I do. And I would just encourage any parents not to try and do it alone. You know, reach out and get help. It's not for everyone to go into a peer environment. You know, I know people personally that need to just be on their own and do it on their own and don't talk about it at all. Or, you know, it's your journy. Only you know what the right way is. There I go with that journey again.
I was just about to say, you just I've made sure I've tried not to say it actually.
Didn't say healing journey. So it's
yeah,
all right.
that's it.
It's crap terminology, it annoys me sometimes. But it's their story, you know, and like with any grief, there's no right or wrong way to do it. As long as you're not hurting someone else or hurting yourself,
yeah,
you know, that's the right way to do it if it works for you. Like for me, when I get overwhelmed, I take off into the forest. And luckily Lisa loves walking in the bush too. And you know, we do the wonderful Cape to Cape track. I did that. My son told me he wanted to do it before he died and he never got to do it. So I did it for him last year in his honor, which is, yeah, I skulked away because I had a lot of people sort of probably wanting to do it with me, but I didn't want anyone with me.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to do it again this year, but I've sort of run out of time, I think. But I will skulk away again and just disappear for a few days and not tell anyone. So I've written a little poem which I'll share when I do that. So
cool.
I'm not sharing it until I do that. But I've organised while you're getting the word out there. I've organised last year or earlier this year. Sorry, I lose track of time a bit. A Cape Walk for Hope, which is on the Capes, which is obviously significant for me. But we did it earlier this year. I did it as a result of 6 kids down here that have taken their lives since Christmas. So the youngest's been 14. And I couldn't wait for the concert that I was organising. I had to do something sooner, so I put together a walk. Our community was shattered, and I wanted to bring people together and you know, just go for a simple walk. And I forget the numbers, but I think we had something like 200 people show up for that, and 40 mil of rain forecast for that day. We managed to get most of it out, and we had Laney on the barbecue, and it was a really, really good day. And I wasn't going to do it annually, but everyone's saying, oh, when are we going to do it again? So we're booking that in April, I think, April the 10th, which it'll go out on social media. And this is all inclusive. And that's one of the reasons why I picked that section. So if someone was in a wheelchair or limited mobility or whatever, and, you know, people were asking, oh, we can't do that. So if you show up and do 100 meters, I don't care. The point is coming together. So I want to, I don't know. Every time I do these events, I just want to smash them out of the park and get as many people there and spread the word. So I look at it all as a war. So I'm at war with suicide.
Yeah. You can feel that when, even when I met you in person, you know, at that event, I remember just like I met you out the front because I was standing there with Lainey and then and Kaya, and then I didn't realize that you were the person who was going to be talking, you know, until we got to the met you out the front. And then I actually didn't realize exactly who you were until you got up and spoke. And here I was sitting next to you and your wife, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, this is who Lainey's been telling me about. Like, yeah. And I'd heard so much about how much fire and passion and, you know, all the incredible work, and had been following you on social media as well. So, and I'd heard from you, David Barton had told me about you as well. So, yeah, like I'm behind you the whole way. I'm so stoked to see, you know, like even from my own experiences that I've been through, I love seeing people just like bring it big time to this, because I think, you know, suicide prevention is not only does it save lives, it brings awareness, and it does teach people a lot of compassion and understanding at the same time as well. But then also it gets to take it back, even though layers even a little bit further, so that people can actually take notice of when there's changes in people, or they can have their own little mental health checks, even if they're just having a really crappy day. You know what I mean? It's sort of all of that it starts taking it back a little bit further and further. So it's not all just about shit hitting the fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When it's too late.
Builds up.
Yeah.
I tell people often too to just trust your gut instincts. You know, as humans, we have this instinct to pick up on things that we might not necessarily understand, you know, and if someone, you know, is out of sorts, ask them.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why you're sort of picking up on that you may not register straight away, but, you know, go with your gut instincts. And, you know, we're often right. Someone is, that seems like they're a bit off, you know, what's going on? They might be in absolute turmoil and fighting hard. Just ask them. And don't be afraid to ask them, are you thinking about suicide? Say the word.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't set people off. It's been proven time and time again. If they're thinking about it, it won't push them over the edge. It's the opposite. It'll bring them down. Yeah, that's it. You know what? This is really, and I haven't shared this, so I'll just share this quickly before we wrap up. But when I was going through it, there was no one locally who was like my family really couldn't get through to me, because they were worried about me, but they really didn't know what was going on, because I wouldn't talk to them. It wasn't, I mean, I'd catch up with them, but I was always a very like lively person, big personality, heaps of energy. A mask on. That's it. And then when I'd get to and all of a sudden I change, and they'd ask me out for coffee, and I'd just sit there and say nothing the whole time. It'd be high and by. That was it. And they were so worried about me, they didn't know, you know, what was going on or even how to help me. And I was just lucky that I had some colleagues of mine that I'd done a course with, some coaching stuff with, and she noticed the change in me. She lives over east, right? And the other ladies lived overseas, and she had like messaged me several times and said that she just sensed that there was something not right with me, and I could open up to her. And because I had so many doors shut in my face, you know, not like hundreds of doors, but, you know, I probably had about 5 or 6 doors shut in my face during that time where I asked for help, and I just thought, I'm on my own in this. I've just got to figure this out. And she was super persistent with me. And then I decided to get on a Zoom call with her, and it changed everything, because she rallied all these women together, and then they were messaging me every day on Facebook Messenger, checking in with me. They jumped on Zoom calls with me, and that changed everything for me. It was just, that was what like got me through it, you know. And so this is why it's so important, when you do see that something's not right with someone, don't just like brush it off, you know, and go, oh, you know, I don't have time for that crap, or, you know, whatever. And I guess something else too is also be prepared to listen. You know, there's a bit of an art to listening, which I'm learning. I don't, you know, I'm always learning. You know, to sit there and listen to someone's story without, you know, without judgment, and just listen to it. And it's a real, it sounds easy, but it's not. It's actually not. It's, you know, you sit there and just be prepared to listen, and be prepared for the answer that you might not want to hear. You know, and there's no, urgency always. Sometimes there is, obviously, but you can just listen to this people's story and then say, oh, come on, let's go and have a coffee and let's go and get some help and talk. I'll come with you even.
Yeah.
And again, like I've said earlier, bring back the humanity.
Yeah.
We're human beings. We need this contact with people.
Yes.
COVID's showing that, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
I'll give you a big virtual hug, Mandy. We're all fighting something on some level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always a very real honour for me to hear people's personal stories like yours. I hear many of them nowadays, and it never ceases to move me.
Yeah, I love hearing people's stories too. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I love the podcast so much, right? Because it raises awareness, and then and I always hope too. It's like, if it saves one life, and I always think if someone gets to listen to it and just goes, "Wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear today to give me some hope, or give me some resources, or know someone I can reach out to." That's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And often when we're in that dark place, we feel so alone, but we're surrounded by the people we love, and just ride the shitstorm, just ride it for a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden the sun comes out.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And how would you like people to reach out to you? I'll tag you on Facebook. Yeah.
Facebook's easy, and if they don't want to put it publicly, just send me a personal message.
Yes.
I check them often.
Yes.
Well, my wife would probably say too often. So, Facebook seems to be easiest format at the moment. If people reach out to you and want to get hold of me, and you think it's appropriate, pass on my phone number or email.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to sort of give it out too much, because I get overwhelmed, and I don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
But if they send me a personal message, I can reply when I get a chance, and hopefully point them in the right direction for getting some help.
Yes, awesome.
And use the warm phone line, people, if you need it. It's and if you feel like you need to ring Lifeline, ring Lifeline.
Yes.
Can't stress it enough. These are fantastic, and they don't judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. Oh, well, thank you so much for today. I'm just so grateful that we've got this chance to. It's been awesome, and and I'm just glad that we're able to make this time, and because I really want people to see your brilliance, right? Because I do believe you're a powerhouse, big time, and I want and I think it's important also for people that are also wanting to raise awareness, that they also see your passion, right? Because it can be, when you are feeling like you're fighting a war against something like this, sometimes you can feel like it's just too overwhelming, right? Where if you can see someone's brilliance and how they're fired up about it, and
calling me brilliant. That sounds weird.
Why? I believe so. Take it as a compliment.
It's not. It's such a hard thing to do, and I don't know. It's just not for everyone.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to get a lot of no's and a lot of no answers. And I would say 80% of emails I send out, I don't get a reply to.
Yeah.
So you have to be persistent, and you have to be prepared for having doors slammed in your face.
Yes.
I'm prepared to kick the doors down. I don't care.
Yeah.
So if there's a door slammed in my face, I'll just go around the back.
Yeah. No doors, find a window.
Yeah, well, it's too important. What are the options? We don't save these people.
Yeah.
It's not, the failures for me is just not an option if I don't get something that I think is, and I keep stressing it again. I don't have the answers. I'm not an expert in this field. It's and I tell everyone I meet, including the minister and the commission, that I'm not an expert in this field. I'd be lying if I said I was, and I wouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So, but I know, again, we all have a little piece of that answer, and together we are experts. All of us united are experts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for everyone jumping on board and watching us today.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mandy. It was great.
Awesome.
So,
See you later, everybody. Thank you,
everyone. Thanks.
Hey, beautiful man. If you're going through stress,
need insight, direction to lighten the load, brother, and support during these challenging times, reach out to me. It's no secret that there are so many men suffering at the moment, amazing men, and they're so keen to get help, but don't know what that looks like. So I've created a 6-week one-to-one resilience coaching package for men with one-to-one coaching calls and support via Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp in between calls to help put yourself back in the driver's seat of life. And there's a strong level of trust that goes hand in hand with walking by someone's side during their challenges and their celebrations too. And that's what I'm here for, brother. So message me and let's find your path to true resilience.